Chance the Rapper once said, "The problem is that my generation was pacified into believing that racism existed only in our history books." Racism isn't just something learned about in history class. It's something that has always been and still is prevalent in the United States. One place that racism seems extremely prevalent is in our higher education system. The push for equality back in the civil rights movement created something called affirmative action. According to the Google Dictionary, affirmative action is an action or policy favoring those who tend to suffer from discrimination, especially in relation to employment or education. Discrimination is discrimination. Affirmative action creates an even larger divide and unequal opportunity to all. Because of affirmative action, young adults are discriminated from the end of high school until they have a stable job and career. Therefore, politicians and people need to fight to get rid of affirmative action so young adults can be in charge of their own accomplishments. Affirmative action has most of its control over college admissions. Universities and private schools are going to extreme measures to raise the amount of diversity in their schools. Obviously, more white American students are accepted into colleges because they have a larger population here. But there are other factors to it. Lindsay Cook did a study and found several statistics comparing African American students to white American students. She found many statistics, but overall, African Americans received lower grades and test scores. This is not to show favor to one race over another, but it can show why more white American students are accepted into these universities. In order for these schools to accept more minority students, they sometimes have to lower the standards and qualifications. Some schools will even set a cap on what % of the race is allowed into the school. One of the biggest examples of this is Harvard admissions. In 2014, a lawsuit was filed against Harvard, saying that they had a cap on the number of Asian American students admitted into their college. The student body had stayed between 16 and 19% Asian American for years, even though the Asian population in America had doubled in that time. These percentages compared to schools that don't use affirmative action are much, much lower. College admission should be based solely on academics because that's what school is about. It isn't fair to the people who work their whole life to strive in school and not be accepted just because of their race. Not only are college admissions biased, but scholarships are as well. On just about any university's websites, you can find a list of the school scholarships, and a fraction of them will most likely be considered diversity scholarships. UNL is an example of this. They have 36 school scholarships, and 8 of them are considered to be diversity scholarships. Even further, not a single one of them applies to white or Asian Americans. On a radio talk show, Michael Martin and Dr. Mark were discussing this issue. When Martin asked if minorities were more likely to earn a scholarship, Martin replied saying, "In fact, they are less likely to receive college scholarships. Caucasian students receive 72% of all scholarships, and minorities receive only about 28%. These percentages may be true, but they're just blank statistics. When you compare them to the U.S. population that is made of 76.9% white Americans and the other 23% is minority groups, it can be seen that the white majority receives 5% less in comparison to their population. 5% of the U.S. citizens doesn't seem like a lot, but that is about 16 million people. Students have even taken this problem into their own hands. Some have created scholarships that were for white males only, and they have received all kinds of backlash. The only difference between their scholarships and the other acceptable diversity scholarships is the color of the recipient's skin. Racism doesn't end when college does. In many workplaces, employers must create and successfully implement an affirmative action plan. To ensure federal compliance with equal opportunity laws, they must update the program often as well. These guidelines require employers to hire people from different ethnic groups and meet certain timables for promoting minorities. This would be all fine and dandy if it didn't mean hiring less qualified applicants at times. In the hiring process, affirmative action takes the focus away from how well someone is suited for the job and places the focus on racial issues and other factors. Because of affirmative action, young adults are discriminated from the end of high school until they have a stable job and career. Therefore, we need to fight to get rid of affirmative action and racism so young adults can be in charge of their own accomplishments. We need to fight to remove affirmative action from every single state in the U.S. It is outdated and is doing the opposite of what it was created to do. Complete equality isn't possible, but fair treatment to all races is achievable. As Chance the Rapper believes, this generation sees racism as something they learn about in history class. But it isn't. It's something that young adults need to be informed about and stick up for. Prejudice in America hasn't gone away, but it has certainly changed form. In modern times, prejudice is affirmative action and unfair opportunities for different races. If affirmative action is taken down state by state, the young adults in the U.S. will finally be unified.